Did you know? The idea to make Howl's Moving Castle came from Hayao Miyazaki reading British fantasy writer Diana Wynne Jones's novel of the same name. Jones's first encounter with Miyazaki was rather strange to her. Jones became a huge fan of Miyazaki's work after viewing a pirated version of Laputa, Castle in the Sky, at a science fiction convention. Jones said, "I was absolutely hitting midships, to the extent of watching the film whenever it was showing. It was the most amazing thing when nearly 20 years later I got these overtures saying Miyazaki would like to make a film of Howl." Originally, Miyazaki wasn't even planned to direct the film. Studio Ghibli hired Mamoru Hosoda of Toei Animation to direct, but Hosoda left the project after his ideas were rejected. Miyazaki was attempting to retire from directing movies at the time, but took over the project after Hosoda's departure. Miyazaki has attempted to retire multiple times, but always ends up returning to animation. When asked about this regular change of heart, Miyazaki said, "Although I've thought about leaving the world of animation many times, whenever I see a piece of work that I really like, I naturally want to express it in my own ideas. When I hand it to others, I always think about how this and that should be done. At last, I feel that it will be better if I take up the work myself." When production first started, Studio Ghibli planned to visit Wales, which was the setting of the book. However, Diana Jones didn't believe Studio Ghibli would gain much from seeing Welsh cities. She recalled, "I tried to dissuade them from going to Cardiff, and suggested that a smaller Welsh town would be better." Ultimately though, Miyazaki and his art department drew most of their imagery from the French region of Alsace. Miyazaki personally visited the Alsatian towns of Colmar and Requia and studied both their traditional architecture and rural surroundings. In order to enhance the French flavor of the film's setting, the team also studied the works of French illustrator and novelist Albert Robida. Robita's work was ideal, as it dealt with the steampunk-style future technology seen in the film. Though the movie was mostly produced digitally, the backgrounds and characters were drawn and painted by hand before being digitized and scanned into computers. Like both Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away, Howl uses a number of digital tools and techniques to enhance the traditional art. This includes 3D rendering, ray tracing, and all kinds of morphing, visual, and atmospheric effects. These effects were put to good use when creating Sophie's physiological transformations. The way Miyazaki depicted Sophie's age-related traits evolved gradually. He carefully considered the diverse opinions of his younger staff. Producer Toshio Suzuki explains, "Miyazaki wasn't sure whether it was okay for a popular entertainment movie to have a 90-year-old woman at its center from beginning to end. So he would bring it up at a meeting and a female staff member would respond by saying, 'What's wrong with having a grandma as a heroine? I think it's a great idea.' And then another female staffer would say, 'It might be nice to see her back in a girl's body every now and then.'" 18 months after licensing her characters to Ghibli, Jones was told that Miyazaki would be visiting her in Bristol, England for a special screening of the film. In the end, Jones was more than satisfied with how the movie turned out, saying, "It was wonderful. I don't think I've ever met anyone before who thinks like I do. He saw my books from the inside out." This was also comforting to Jones, as she originally worried that the deal would be selling some of the characters into slavery. Jones's creation was in the good hands of Miyazaki, however, who found her world fascinating. Miyazaki was drawn to the idea of making a movie that centered on a giant castle roaming the countryside. Since Jones's novel never explained how the castle was able to move, Miyazaki spent a considerable amount of time coming up with an interesting way to make it mobile. Miyazaki may have turned to Baba Yaga's hut for inspiration, as the castle ended up with spindly-looking chicken legs. The castle's design was ultimately made more fluid and constantly changes its appearance in response to Howl and the situations he finds himself in. The castle in the book was visibly different, and was depicted as an ominous, dark, tall wizard's tower. There are many other noteworthy differences between the movie and the novel. The book has a much larger cast of characters and a range of plot threads that were too complex to include in a 2-hour film. As a result, an important character from the novel, Sophie's younger sister Martha, is absent from the movie. However, the film does have a few sly references to Martha for book readers. A farmer says that Sophie was looking for her younger sister, and in the beginning of the movie, the hat shop workers say that Howl tore out the heart of a girl named Martha. The book's main antagonist is the Witch of the Waste, but in the film, she isn't portrayed as truly evil or good. Madame Sullivan treads slightly closer to being a traditional villain in the movie, and constantly creates conflict. It's only at the end of the film that Sullivan recognizes the futility and destruction of conflict and the ongoing war, which is the film's real villain. The war is possibly the biggest difference between the book and the film, as the book only alludes to an upcoming conflict. This strong focus on the impact and consequences of war was due to Miyazaki's distaste for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Because of the political climate and the film's strong anti-war message, Miyazaki expected Howl to be poorly received in the US. But Miyazaki was wrong. Howl's Moving Castle was critically acclaimed and broke records. At the time of its release, the film had the most extensive theatrical debut ever for a Japanese film in the United States, being screened simultaneously in 450 cinemas. Like other Ghibli films, the process of creating an English dub was handled by Disney. Pixar's John Lasseter had previously become friends with Miyazaki due to their shared love of animation, and helped Disney acquire the rights to localize Studio Ghibli's films for the West. Lasseter had previously worked with Billy Crystal on Monsters, Inc., and to get the best performance possible, Lasseter was brought in to direct Crystal during his performance as the fire demon Calcifer. Since Lasseter was in California and Crystal was in New York, the direction was unconventionally done via video conference. Crystal spoke about the difficulties of voicing a film where the visuals were set in stone compared to a movie that was still a work in progress. With Monsters, Inc., we created it as we went, and I would lay down the voice and they would animate to that. That gave me much more of a chance to improvise. So that was the challenge in doing this, and to just get it close to being right. Making the dialogue organic was the biggest challenge for Disney's team. Translators had to take the original Japanese text and turn it into something conversational while still maintaining its original meaning. A direct translation of dialogue into English might be much longer or shorter than how the words are spoken in Japanese. Sometimes this can be fixed by the actors reading the lines at a quicker or slower pace, though occasionally this isn't enough, and the dialogue has to be reworked on the fly as the actors are recording lines. It's not only the pacing that Disney needed to worry about, they also need to make sure that the English words sync up to the mouth movements on screen. One example of this issue can be seen with the name Howl. Howl is just one syllable in English, but 2 syllables in Japanese as hauru. This often leads to words being changed or added to fit, or actors having to speak in a very specific way. If you clicked on this video, you're probably a fan of anime. If you are, and you want an easy and reliable way to watch your favorite anime, you might want to check out Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll have beloved animes like Mob Psycho 100, Attack on Titan, and Berserk. And they're offering a free trial of their premium service to Digino Movies viewers. With Crunchyroll Premium, you can watch episodes within an hour after they air in Japan, and it's all ad-free. You can watch them wherever you like, in your living room on Wii U, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, on your desktop computer, or even on your mobile devices. Everything on Crunchyroll is officially licensed and supports the dedicated creators in Japan. So if you want easy access to the latest and greatest anime, try out this special 30-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium by going to crunchyroll.com/DYKM or by clicking the link below. Make sure you subscribe for more facts and trivia, and if you like this video, give it a like.